TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. I am Mayan Hassan, and this is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel facilitates transfer of humanitarian aid into Gaza as it aims to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian population. The U.S. acknowledges that the IDF's new military operation in Gaza is helping in the negotiations for the release of hostages. The Islamic Republic of Iran dubs Washington's top nuclear negotiator as detached from reality. The IDF is intensifying its operational activities throughout the Gaza Strip as part of Operation Gideon's Chariot, while in tandem, Israel is working to deliver limited amounts of humanitarian aid to the non-combatant population of the territory in efforts to avert prospects of starvation. Facing criticism from domestic right-wing factions, criticizing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of his decision to provide the Gaza Strip with humanitarian aid, the Israeli leader released a statement explaining his decision.
From the beginning of the war, we said that in order to complete the victory, defeat Hamas, and free all our hostages, two tasks that are intertwined, there is one necessary condition. We must not reach a state of starvation, both from a practical and a political point of view. We simply won't get support. We won't be able to complete the mission of victory. And so we decided to provide minimal aid during the war, and of course we advanced in this way, and of course we discovered that Hamas was looting some of this aid. And so, we stopped the humanitarian aid, and together with our American friends, we decided to do a different method. The method is distribution points that are secured by the IDF, preventing Hamas access and allowing American companies to distribute the food and medicine aid to the population. It takes time. We are going to set up the first points in a few days and add them later, eventually reaching a situation where we have an area that is entirely controlled by the IDF, and the entire civilian population of Gaza can get there and receive the aid, and Hamas receives nothing. This is part of defeating Hamas, and parallel with the tremendous military pressure, our massive entry, to essentially take over all of Gaza and strip Hamas of all ability to plunder humanitarian aid. This is the war and victory plan.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu further defended the move, explaining that shortages in basic goods, including infant formula, had become severe throughout the Hamas-plagued Gaza Strip, and therefore, Jerusalem decided to consent to a request by its American ally.
A problem emerged because we rapidly approached the red line, which could result in the lose control, and then everything crumbles. Our closest friends in the world, senators who I know for decades as enthusiastic supporters of Israel absent any reservations, they come to me and tell me that they grant us all support to achieve victory, including weapons, support for our maneuvers to eliminate Hamas, and protection from the UN Security Council, one thing they cannot withstand, which relates to pictures of starvation, mass starvation. That is something that they cannot withstand. They say we cannot support you. Therefore, to achieve victory, we must resolve this problem until we erect the distribution points and establish the sterile sector under IDF control for distribution of food and medicine. We must establish a type of relief, nominal, basic relief, to ensure that there won't be starvation. We hope to accomplish on time. However, we know that we are fast approaching a dangerous point, which we don't want to reach. Therefore, we must take decisions, tough decisions, for the purpose of enabling complete victory in this gradual process. It won't be perfect, I already tell you that, but it will succeed.
Israeli Foreign Minister Director General Eden Bartal announced that the first installment of humanitarian aid had been delivered, with additional shipments expected in the near future.
Today, Israel is facilitating the entry of trucks with baby food into Gaza. In the coming days, Israel will facilitate the entry of dozens of aid trucks. Its conclusion, the bottom line is clear. Israel always complies with international law and with its obligations and statements. Everyone in the international community should take a decision which side he is on Israel's side or on the Hamas side.
The Foreign Ministry's Director General further emphasized that the current aid is meant to serve as a temporary solution until a U.S.-backed mechanism designed to prevent Hamas from intercepting supplies is fully operational.
The purpose of the aid is to help the population, not to support Hamas. This is the rationale behind the new American model for aid presented 10 days ago by U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Few words about the new model of aid. An international fund, GHF, will operate based on this principle: direct aid to the population in Gaza, but not to Hamas. Israel supports this plan fully. The fund will distribute the aid in several distribution centers located in safe areas in Gaza. The IDF will not take part of the distribution. The IDF will secure the perimeter. The distribution sites should be operating in a matter of days.
Meanwhile, at the United Nations, Secretary General Antonio Guterres' spokesman, Stéphane Dujarric, welcomed Israel's resumption of aid distribution to the Gaza Strip, but stressed that far more assistance is needed.
Tom Fletcher, the emergency relief coordinator, said today in a statement that Israeli authorities have temporarily allowed us to resume aid delivery resume limited aid delivery into Gaza following 11 weeks of a complete blockade and amid a spike in the military offensive. This is a welcome development that should remain in place. Today, he said 9 of our trucks were cleared to enter via the Karim Shalom crossing, but it is a drop in the ocean of what is urgently needed, and significantly more aid must be allowed into Gaza starting tomorrow morning.
When questioned about the new U.S. aid distribution plan, the UN spokesman voiced outrage, insisting that its method, which delivered to both civilians and Hamas terrorists, was working just fine, and that the U.S. intentions to partner with the UN were uncalled for.
We don't need another partner. We don't need a newly minted humanitarian partner to tell us how to do our work in Gaza. There is a system which has worked, and it has worked successfully. What we need in Gaza is what the Secretary General has been called for, a ceasefire, right? Until we get that ceasefire, we need to get humanitarian aid in. We need to get the hostages out. We understand there are discussions going on with the help of the mediators, with the help of the U.S., the help of Qatar, the help of Egypt, to get Israel and Hamas to agree. We need that to happen. In the meantime, we will continue to do our work proudly under very, very difficult circumstances.
Meanwhile, the governments of the United Kingdom, France, and Canada issued a joint statement condemning Israel's decision to ratchet up military pressure against the Islamist Hamas, and demanded that Israel cease fire immediately and reinvigorate delivery of aid through the United Nations.
Let me separately address the question of Gaza, because it is a really serious, unacceptable, intolerable situation, and that's why we are working intensely to coordinate with other leaders how we respond to this, because it is intolerable, it is unacceptable, and we will continue to work in that way.
The joint British, French, and Canadian declaration essentially relayed a warning. If Israel refuses to comply with their demands, they will take further action, including targeted sanctions against Jerusalem. Similarly, the European Commission has also voiced outrage over Israel's war against Hamas, demanding an immediate cessation of hostilities and complete disregard to Hamas's continued refusal to release the hostages or accept the terms of its defeat.
On Gaza, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is unacceptable. For 2 months now, no humanitarian supplies have entered Gaza. Aid must reach civilians in need immediately, and the blockade on Gaza needs to be lifted now, because humanitarian aid must never be politicized. And we are calling for a resumption of the ceasefire and the immediate release of the hostages so that a permanent end of the hostilities can be finally achieved.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reiterated the EU's support for the two-state solution and announced yet another financial aid package to the Palestinian Authority, amounting to 1.6 billion euros.
We are convinced that the only solution is the two-state solution. This needs, among others, also a functioning Palestinian Authority. We are strongly supporting and financing the Palestinian Authority, and we as a Commission will propose a multi-annual package now of 1.6 billion euros for the years 25, 26, 27 to support the Palestinian Authority.
Meanwhile, in New York, U.S. Special Envoy for Hostage Response Adam Bowler was asked about the state of U.S.-led negotiations, which are taking place in both Qatar and Egypt.
I do think we're closer than we ever were, and part of that is because of movement that the IDF and Israel did on the ground. And so that it strengthens our hand.
So as opposed to France, the UK, and what was the other country? Canada, who criticized Israel today for the ground operation, the United States supports it?
The United States has always been a fervent supporter of Israel.
That's true.
And I think we always think about how you balance various aspects. But if I were a European country, I'd be particularly sensitive to how I criticize Israel.
In other news, U.S. Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, reiterated President Donald Trump's unequivocal red line vis-à-vis Iran's nuclear program.
Well, the president has been very clear. He wants to solve this conflict diplomatically and with dialogue. And he's given all the signals. He's directly sent letters to the supreme leader. I have been dispatched to deliver that message as well, and I've delivered it. But on the other hand, we have one very, very clear red line, and that is enrichment. We cannot allow even 1% of an enrichment capability. We've delivered a proposal to the Iranians that we think addresses some of this without disrespecting them. And so that's important. We want to get to a solution here, and we think that we will be able to. But everything begins from our standpoint, John, with a deal that does not include enrichment. We cannot have that, because enrichment enables weaponization, and we will not allow a bomb to get here. But short of that, there are all kinds of ways for us to achieve our goals in this negotiation. We think that we will be meeting sometime this week in Europe, and we hope that it will lead to some real positivity, and that's where we are, sir.
Responding to the American envoy's remarks, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi accused Witkoff of being detached from reality.
I believe he is completely detached from reality of the negotiations. Enrichment will continue in Iran. If they are interested to ensure that no nuclear weapons are produced, we are ready to cooperate. But unrealistic expectations will not be met.
It is important to highlight that Iranian officials are voicing strong opposition over President Trump's recent visit to the Gulf, during the course of which he explicitly re-emphasized that the Ayatollah regime needs to decide whether it chooses diplomacy or war over Washington's requirement for Iran to dismantle its nuclear weapons program.
What Trump did in his visit to the region, saying things no one other than himself would believe, threatening us. On the one hand, he speaks of peace, and on the other, he threatens with the most advanced tools of mass killing. Which should we believe from this president? His message of peace or his message of slaughter? We are negotiating, and we will continue to talk. We are not looking for war, but we are not intimidated by threats either. They should not assume that threats will deter us from upholding our fundamental human rights. We will not back down. We will not let go of our glorious achievements in military, academic, and nuclear.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to urge you to take a moment to pray for the 58 hostages in Hamas captivity, in addition to the IDF troops operating in the Gaza Strip, and for the peace of Jerusalem. Separately, if you've been blessed by TV7 Israel, which is exclusively funded by our viewers, please consider supporting our productions with a donation. You can do so at our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Mayan Hessen, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.